The wind howled across the red plains of Valis 3, carrying with it the metallic scent of ozone and dust from the mining towers that pierced the horizon like rusted spears. Kalen adjusted his respirator and leaned into the gusts, his exosuit creaking under the static pressure. He had been repairing a thermal conduit near Sector 9 when he heard it, a cry that didn't belong to this world's mechanical rhythm. It was sharp, trembling, alive. Not the sound of a machine failing, but of something small and heartbroken. He turned off his comlink, letting the industrial noise fade until only the wind and that fragile sound remained. The colony's sky shimmered with the faint glow of containment fields, and beyond them, silhouettes of dragon nests clung to the cliffs, silent, forbidden, almost mythical. The cry came again, closer this time, fractured by the hum of power lines. Kalen followed it through the ash dunes until he found the source, a tiny creature with scales that shimmered like fractured glass, crouched beside a shattered crystalline sphere. She looked no older than a child in human terms, her wings folded tight, her breathing uneven. Around her, 2 security officers stood laughing, one of them tapping his shock baton against his armor. "Little monster thought it could play," one said, smirking. "Now it knows who's in charge." The other kicked the broken toy across the sand. It glowed faintly as it rolled, then died. "Enough," Kalen said before realizing the danger of his own voice. The soldiers turned. Their visors reflected the dull orange of the containment lights. "It's just a hatchling," he added. The taller one sneered. "Engineer, mind your own circuit lines. This thing's property now." Kalen took a step forward. The hatchling raised her head. Her eyes, liquid gold threaded with light, met his, trembling with fear and something deeper. "They broke my toy," she whispered, her voice crackling with a faint psychic echo that brushed against his thoughts. "And they hurt my dragon mom." The world seemed to tilt. Static burst across his visor. He felt something surge through him, an unfamiliar pulse that wasn't human. For an instant, he saw through her eyes, the chains, the dome, the white lights of the labs. Then it was gone, leaving behind a silence so heavy it crushed his chest. Kalen looked back at the soldiers. His hand trembled as he deactivated his safety lock. "You've done enough," he said quietly. And for the first time in years, he didn't sound like an engineer. He sounded human. The containment dome loomed before him like a glass wound in the landscape, pulsing faintly with blue light from its magnetic lattice. Inside, the air shimmered with heat. Kalen's ID chip granted him access to maintenance corridors, not restricted research sectors, but ever since he'd heard the hatchling's cry, he'd stopped caring about rules that protected cruelty. He bypassed 2 drones using a frequency scrambler he'd built from spare transceivers, then slipped through an auxiliary hatch. The temperature jumped instantly, and the smell of scorched ozone filled his lungs. In the center of the dome lay a creature so vast it defied his sense of scale. Her wings were folded, clamped with metal harnesses that glowed with restraint runes and pulse inhibitors. Irindra, the Dragon Mother. He'd seen her once, years ago, before the Corporate Reclamation Acts outlawed dragon-human contact. Then, she had filled the skies above Valis 3, a streak of light and thunder. Now, she was a monument to suffering. He approached slowly, every step crunching on crystallized dust. Monitors hummed around her, draining her energy into reactors that powered the upper city. Her breath was shallow, glowing faintly beneath her scales. Kalen reached out, trembling, and for a heartbeat he thought she was dead. Then her eyelid lifted, revealing a golden iris streaked with dim sparks. Her voice wasn't a sound but a wave through his mind, soft yet immense. "You touched my child." He froze, unable to form words. Thoughts poured into him, images of her daughter's broken toy, her chains, her rage restrained by the very humans she once protected. "They called it containment," she whispered, "but it is theft. They steal what we are to fuel what they build." Kalen's visor flickered with interference. His neural implant, standard for all engineers, struggled to process the psychic resonance. And yet, beneath the pressure, he felt something extraordinary, a bridge forming between their minds. His pulse synchronized with hers, his thoughts tangled in alien emotion. "I'll protect her," he managed, voice barely audible. A faint hum rose from the restraints as her breathing deepened. "Then you must run. The system already knows you entered." Outside, alarms began to blare. Red light filled the dome, slicing through the haze. Kalen looked up, heart hammering, as security drones swarmed in formation. Irindra's eyes flared once, one last fragment of power burning through exhaustion. "Protect her, human." The dome walls trembled. Energy arced between the clamps and his body, etching something unseen into his neural patterns, a connection, a promise sealed in light. Then, as the first drone fired, Kalen dove into the maintenance conduit, clutching the resonance still echoing in his skull. The tunnels beneath Valis, free breathed with the rhythm of the colony, pulsing lights, coolant veins, and the distant thrum of machinery that never slept. Kalen moved through the maintenance shafts with Lyra bundled in a thermal shroud, her small body trembling against his chest. The echo of the alarm still rang above them, faint but relentless. His neural interface flickered occasionally, ghosted by the residue of Irindra's psychic touch. It was as if her voice still lingered somewhere in the code of his thoughts, whispering just beneath the surface of comprehension. He reached his workshop, a narrow chamber carved from disused circuitry hulls. Old consoles lined the walls, half buried in dust and wiring. He placed Lyra on a cot and activated a low-frequency dampening field. The hum wrapped around them like a blanket, cloaking their presence from colony sensors. The hatchling's scales dimmed to a softer glow, her breathing easing. When she opened her eyes, Kalen saw in them something both innocent and ancient. "They took her away," she murmured, her voice barely above a vibration. "I know," he said quietly. "We'll find her." He turned to his terminal. The system map of Valis, 3 unfurled in holographic lines, showing the containment grids, the reactor cores, and the biological research sectors where the dragons were harvested for energy crystals. The entire colony's stability depended on their suffering. As he studied the network, Lyra wandered closer to one of his deactivated drones. Her small claws brushed its broken chassis, and the machine came alive. Circuits glowed with blue light as if responding to her touch, its internal systems aligning themselves with her heartbeat. Kalen froze, watching as she tilted her head in curiosity. "How did you?" "She wants to help," Lyra said simply, as though speaking for the machine itself. The fusion between her energy and the drone's mechanical core stabilized, creating a strange hybrid pulse on his scanner. It wasn't interference. It was communication. Human technology and dragon essence were syncing at a molecular level, rewriting every law he knew. Then the lights flickered. A sharp tone cut through the dampening field. Kalen's screen flashed with a warning, "Unauthorized biosignal detected. Location traced." Lyra looked at him, her expression calm but resolute. "They're coming." He grabbed his plasma cutter and sealed the hatch. The hum of engines above grew louder, accompanied by the screech of armored landing units. As shadows passed over the ventilation grids, Kalen felt the link inside him flare again, the mark Irindra had left burning brighter than before. The walls seemed to vibrate with her distant voice, "The flame lives on. Run, human." Kalen took Lyra's hand. Together, they vanished into the pulse-lit corridors as the colony began to wake to their defiance. The chamber reeked of recycled air and cold iron. Kalen stood before the tribunal's hollow dais, wrists bound in magnetic cuffs that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Behind the transparent barrier, Lyra floated in a containment orb, her body curled tight, her eyes half closed as the orb's inner light drained her strength. Around them, the upper-tier officials of Valis, 3 watched with sterile fascination, their faces lit by the pale blue glow of projection screens showing her vital readings. Governor Thalen's voice sliced through the silence. "Unauthorized entry into restricted sectors. Theft of corporate property. Harboring of a Class 7 biohazard. He paused, letting each charge echo. Do you deny it? Kalen didn't answer. His gaze remained fixed on Lyra, whose faint breath fogged the inside of the orb. The energy field surrounding her pulsed with a crystalline rhythm, one he recognized. Dragon Crystal Resonance. Irindra's life force was being used as the containment's power source. Something inside him fractured. You're using her, he whispered. You're killing them to feed your machines. Thalen smirked. Efficiency, engineer. The dragons were never meant to share this world. They are resources, nothing more. A low hum began to fill the hall. The floor lights flickered as the orb's glow intensified. Lyra's small hands pressed against the glass. It hurts, she said softly, her voice trembling through the speakers. You hurt my dragon mom, and you broke the toy she made for me. The words rippled through the chamber, carried not just by sound but by something deeper, an emotional frequency that bypassed logic and struck directly at the human mind. The guards staggered, clutching their heads. Data panels glitched, the light fracturing into streams of gold. The broadcast system, still live across the colony, carried her voice to every corner of Valis, 3. Workers paused mid-shift. Soldiers dropped their rifles. The cry of a child, honest and unfiltered, reached places no rebellion ever could. Thalen shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the chaos. The resonance overloaded the neural networks, turning every comm feed into a wave of grief and awakening. Kalen broke free as the cuffs shorted out, the energy surge feeding from his implanted link to Irindra. He stumbled toward the orb, its surface cracking under the rising frequency. Lyra looked up at him through the haze of light. She's calling, she whispered. And then the orb shattered, filling the hall with the sound of a dragon's heartbeat reborn. Light exploded across the hall in waves of gold and scarlet, bending through shattered glass and steel as if reality itself were flexing to the sound of a forgotten language. Kalen shielded his eyes, but the energy was alive, it pulsed through his veins, synchronizing with the mark Irindra had left within him. Lyra stood at the center of the chaos, her small body surrounded by a storm of molten air. The remnants of the containment orb floated like fragments of light around her, orbiting in deliberate rhythm, forming symbols older than human memory. The soldiers who had once laughed at the dragon stumbled back, their visors flooding with static. A voice thundered through the colony's comnet, not mechanical, not human, but vast, like the sound of tectonic plates grinding under the sea. My child breathes. My fire lives. Irindra's consciousness, vast and broken, poured through every communication channel, spreading from reactor cores to orbiting satellites. The dragons in the outer nesting cliffs awoke from sedation. Their wings tore through containment nets, their roars echoing across the night. The entire colony trembled as the suppression fields failed one by one. Kalen reached for Lyra. The air between them shimmered with residual energy, and when their hands touched, his neural implant fused with her psychic field. Their consciousness collided, metal and flame, logic and emotion, merging into something neither fully human nor dragon. Don't be afraid, Lyra whispered. Her voice was layered with another beneath it, her mother's echo woven into each syllable. Power surged outward in a blinding arc. The restraints on the dome shattered, the reactors overloaded, feeding energy back into the sky. From the orbiting satellites, the colony appeared as a radiant bloom, light bursting outward like a newborn star. Kalen could feel the network disintegrating around them, the corporate archives erasing themselves in panic, drone fleets falling from the sky, power grids collapsing. Yet in the heart of that destruction was harmony. For the first time, human technology and dragon essence coexisted, fusing not through force but through empathy. As the roof split open, revealing the crimson heavens above, Irindra's immense shadow unfurled through the light, her body no longer flesh but luminous energy. She gazed down at them, at her daughter, at the human who defied fear, and her final thought resonated through every living mind: protect what you love, even if the stars burn for it. Then she was gone, leaving behind a world on fire and a sky that no longer belonged to machines. The fires burned for 3 days, painting the horizon in shades of molten orange and violet. When the smoke finally lifted, Valis 3 was unrecognizable. The towers of steel had softened into ruins of glass, reflecting the faint shimmer of new auroras that now rippled across the sky. Kalen stood at the edge of what had once been the central dome, his exosuit torn and streaked with ash. The hum of reactors was gone. In its place, the air pulsed with a gentler energy, alive, natural, resonant with the rhythm of something older than the colony itself. Lyra perched nearby, her wings folded neatly against her back. The gold in her eyes had deepened, carrying faint traces of her mother's light. She held a fragment of the shattered toy, now fused with circuitry that pulsed softly in time with her heartbeat. "She's still here," she said, watching the auroras swirl. "Mom's voice is in the sky." Kalen nodded. He could feel it too, woven through the electromagnetic hum of the planet, faint but constant. Irindra's consciousness diffused across the atmosphere. Her essence had merged with Valis 3's energy grid, stabilizing it. The world no longer ran on exploitation, but on the lingering echo of her sacrifice. The survivors of the uprising had begun rebuilding. Humans and dragons worked side by side, scavenging the ruins for usable tech, repurposing reactor cores into energy wells that pulsed with dragonlight. Old banners of the corporation lay buried in the sand, trampled beneath claw and boot alike. For the first time, there was no master, only coexistence. At dusk, Lyra touched Kalen's hand. "Will they come back?" she asked. "They'll try," he said. "But next time, we'll be ready." She smiled faintly, tilting her head toward the stars. The aurora shifted, taking shape for just a moment, a vast wing unfurling across the heavens, luminous and serene. Irindra's presence rippled through the sky, a guardian watching over her kind and those who had chosen compassion over control. As night settled, Kalen activated his old transmitter, sending a single pulse into orbit, a message carried through the remnants of broken satellites. "We are not your tools. We are awake." Lyra's small voice followed, gentle and certain. "And we remember." The signal drifted into the infinite dark, its echo shimmering across constellations. For the first time, the universe itself seemed to listen.